everybody. My dad thinks his podcast is amazing, so please subscribe, give it 5 stars or whatever, and maybe he'll finally stop talking about it. Anyways, welcome to Sobriety.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Season 2, who knows what episode? You do, we don't. So before we get started, we want to remind everybody, please like, follow, share, subscribe, comment. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. I keep saying it because it's true. I'm working on getting us on other platforms. We've been quite busy the past few weeks, so I'm not even going to lie. It's kind of been pushed down on the importance list, but it's going to get moved back up. Share. We say it every week. We want to keep our content free, inclusive, and accessible to everybody. That's what's the most important thing. We do not make money on this podcast. We want to make sure that people get what they need. We are a safe, inclusive space. And with that said, we always like to say a little trigger warning in the beginning. We do talk about substance abuse, addiction, self-harm, eating disorders, mental health, all of the things. So as much as we want you to share and stay tuned, if you find that it's too triggering or overstimulating or you're feeling any which way, please make sure to pause. You can always revisit because taking care of yourself first is what is most important. We are here for you, but we sometimes hearing about stuff, especially when you're in the thick of it, it can feel very overwhelming. And we get that.
Perfectly said.
Thank you. I've been told I'm quite articulate.
Most of the time.
Who we got today?
Today is a very good friend of mine. I actually finally got to meet, about a month ago or so. It's really cool because I've been able to watch her whole journey through sobriety and reframe. So let's welcome my favorite Floridian, Abby Padro.
Hi.
Abby, how are you?
I am great. How are you guys?
We're good.
Better now. Good to see you again.
Right.
Good to see you too. And nice to see you, Jessica.
Nice to see you too. I have to kickstart us off with a funny story. So our daughter is a huge fan of ours. Of course, she's our daughter. But recently she's 14. So she's gotten this very possessive trait. And so we were at a basketball game and I was talking to a fellow parent who happened to be male. And, he walks in and he's like, "Where's your mom?" She's like, "She's up there talking to some random guy, and he's like, "Oh, that's Mike," whatever. And when y'all met for coffee and I don't remember what happened. We didn't go, we couldn't go. There was something there. And he sent me a picture of y'all and he's like, "Hey, this is her. We had such a good time." She snatched that phone out of my hand. She went, "Who is that?" And I said, "That is one of your dad's sober friends. He met with her today." And he goes, she was like, "Okay."
Yeah. She did.
That's
she did.
Cute,
she's done that a couple times.
She does it every time.
It's so funny. She's
every time.
"Who is this?"
I mean, if
She's
I'm
jealous
even
of Daddy.
That's
Yes.
right. And if I'm even talking to a man on the just standing in line somewhere, she'll be like, "Mom's talking to some random guy."
Yeah.
So I thought you would think that was pretty funny. "Who is that?" I was like, "That's your dad's friend. Relax. We don't have jealous partners.
No.
We have a jealous teenager."
The teenager.
How did that happen?
Crazy.
Wow, that is something.
that
That's cute,
funny?
though.
It is cute.
Yes.
It is.
Well, Abby, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan. Always love your post on Instagram, and looks like your real estate business is banging, which is always cool.
I love my fellow realtors. I'm a real estate agent too, so I'm there with you, girl.
We understand each other in another capacity.
Yeah, that's right.
People go, "Do you like your job?" And I'm like, "What day is it?"
Yeah.
What do you define liking?
Yeah.
Right.
So, let's talk about your journey or path, however you want to talk about it, What was, I guess, like the ultimate turning point that made you choose sobriety from where you were?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and a question that I had to do to myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just going a little bit back to my story and to that moment, I was going through a very difficult divorce. Um, I have 3 kids. I have a 19-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old. So going through a divorce with kids, it's just divorces are tough, but when you have kiddos, it's just a lot tougher. And it was one of the darkest time in my life. My ex-husband didn't drink at all. He had never been drunk in his life, so he doesn't even understand like what is the feeling of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we he blames the alcohol, but it's more than that, right? Than the alcohol itself, to be honest. But when I had to leave the house because he didn't want to leave, so we both were there. We lived together, separated for a year. You guys don't even want to know. That is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Like tough. It was horrible. And then I decided, listen, you stay in the house. I just leave with the kids. And I got an apartment. I went from a big house, like 3,400 square feet, to a tiny apartment, 2 bedrooms with 3 kids. Very nice, and paying a lot more than I used to pay because we used to divide, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mortgage. And talking about real estate, at that time when I bought my house, the interest rate were lower. We had an amazing payment for the house that we had. So just to give you to context, I was basically paying the same thing that we pay for the whole house.
Yeah.
So that even hurt me too, because here you are leaving what you own because I had to split, all the equity
Sure.
that we had. And here I am renting for the same amount as a real estate agent. That's like just killing myself.
That's right.
Yeah. It's like sacrilegious.
Yeah, it's almost like you're going to hell for doing
Right.
that. But I had to do it. And I remember I got out at the end of April. And on May 2nd, I will never forget. On May 2nd, I was in my kitchen, my small kitchen. And I was sitting down and I sat down and I'm like, you know what? For the first time, I said, do I have a problem with alcohol? And I was like, you know what? No, I don't have a problem with alcohol. I'm going to take a 30-day challenge and I'm not going to drink. I did the 30-day challenge. And then as we all know, all these phones are listening to us all the time. Refrains starting to pop up everywhere. And I'm like, that sounds interesting. And the neuroscience and this and that. And I think I ignored it for like a month. Until one day I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try the 7-day trial, whatever it is that they give. So that was almost at the end of my 30 days. And then I'm like, I could do more. So I went for 45 days. But in those 2 weeks, I started reading like the tasks, the neuroscience and all that stuff. And I'm like, this is interesting. I like it. But I went back. It was like July 4th and I'm like, or something like that. Like, I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and maybe, try to drink again. Right. And I did. I had, like in that 2-week period, I probably drank like 2 different days. And the thing is that once you learn something, you cannot unlearn. And that was just in my head. I'm like, you know what? Why in the world do I need to drink this fucking poison? Like, why? Why, right? I don't have a problem. If I want to stop, I stop. And that's how my whole journey started with the sobriety, curious movement.
Wow. I love how you said, once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. That's so true because it works. What I found is both ways. You hear addiction, drinking, whatever designation you prefer. Everybody compares it to like a light switch. Like once it switches on, it's on and you can't flip it off. But I think it works the other way too. You're so right that once you even just engage in thinking about sobriety, whether it be for a week or 30 days or a year, that doesn't ever completely switch back off either.
Mhm.
Because I think almost every single person on our podcast, maybe with the exception of like 3, has said it started out as I was feeling like shit or, going through a major life overhaul and thought, I'm just going to quit for X amount of days. But then it's almost like your brain and your body remembers that relief and you can't shake it, right? Like, did you find that, because I'm sure your tolerance level even probably dropped a lot in that 30 days. So when you drank again, obviously with the expectation of being a social drinker, like what did that feel like? Like, was it like, oh my gosh, now I really feel like crap?
Yeah, that's I was in my drinking career. I guess we can call it a drinking career at this point. I was the girl that could outdrink men. And somehow society makes that in a way something to be proud of. Which really now I'm like, really? So I had a very high tolerance of alcohol, but the difference this time is that I gave myself the opportunity. Of course, I was pregnant 3 times before, so I didn't drink there. But that's different. You're not thinking about, and you have other stuff going in your body. But I remember how I felt and the mental clarity that you start getting, you just start feeling better. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't I give myself the opportunity to find the best version of yourself? Because somehow in the back of my mind, now that I think about it, I always had this thought that said, Abby, if you stop drinking, even if it's a social thing, because I don't put labels, I don't consider myself an alcoholic, right? Which I respect whoever does. I don't. Never been physical addicted or never hit that rock bottom. No DUIs. I didn't go to jail. None of that stuff, right? Hopefully we don't have to get there. Some people do, but that's not my story. I'm like, if I can do this and take this distraction, this damn distractions out of my life, I can really reach my potential. So all this thoughts starting to like come up, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go AF. I'm gonna go alcohol free because it's the best thing for me, for my family. And I was in a new relationship, and I said, you know what? I cannot expect the same behavior with different results. That's insanity.
Right.
I love that.
So I'm like, you know what? I had to had a hard look to myself and said, you know what? Put your big panties on, and and you're gonna, see what I did wrong in my marriage, so I don't continue doing that with this relationship that I'm in now. And if alcohol had to do with it, just take the damn thing out. Why am I gonna risk it again? And that was another thing. But I have to say that alcohol-free journey is for you, right?
Right.
He gave me shit. He told me whatever. But I cannot do it. You cannot do it for your kids. You cannot do it for your husband, for your mom, for the world. You got to do it for you first to heal yourself. And then from there, you can actually help. And anybody else and the people around you is the ones that, as you know, Ryan, and you know, Jessica, that's everybody benefits.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
To touch on briefly, I love that you brought up, like, I didn't have a rock bottom or go to jail or anything. And yes, that is an unfortunate part of some people's story, right? I love how inclusive this community is. If you feel comfortable under a label, great. If you don't, not. I quit drinking last summer, and I wasn't a heavy drinker anyways, but again, like, you don't have to have a reason to be better. You know what I mean? Like, I like
doesn't have to happen.
Well, you just don't need a reason at all. You can be
your
like,
choice. If you
this
choose
makes
you want
me
to be that way. That's
right.
It is.
It's like, this makes me feel like shit. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Why? Did you have a problem? And I find alcohol is the only time that people are like, oh, did you have a problem with it?
Yeah.
What happened?
Does it matter if I had a problem with it? Like, you don't have to be overweight to want to work out. Like, you don't have to. I really love that you said that you're like, that wasn't part of my story, thank goodness. But like, I just did a deep dive and thought, I am my biggest problem, and I'm not going to allow that to happen anymore. That's great.
I the thing of alcohol is it's the one drug and poison that you have to explain why you choose not to have it. I mean,
Hmm.
really, it's insane where we at. And in this day and age that we are, hello, there's so much, it's not lack of information anymore. Actually, we have too much.
Yeah.
But the science is there. If you choose to drink, at least admit it. You don't, nobody's judging anyone. Everybody has their own journey with alcohol. And if people choose to do that, that's the way they want to live. Well, amen to you. That's not going to affect me. But that's the thing. If I tell people that ask me or just that they're looking at you. They don't really ask, but they like your drinking buddies. Let's talk about the drinking buddies because that's amazing. I had a lot of those.
Me too.
Yeah,
Used to.
yeah, it's something, but they do look at you. And I had this event, Ryan, and I know you heard this before. I had this event for my brokerage, and they give the awards, and it's fun, and real estate's one of the businesses like lawyers and all that. Alcohol is just the pinnacle point. It's
Oh,
the
yeah.
way they get a real estate agent, the way you get clients, the way you get everything. It's your hook. And I was there, I was having a good time, but I had a couple there that used to be like my drinking buddies, like the ones that you go every week and like for 2 years because I dated his brother, right? And with that said, he at the end, well, not at the end, let me go back. He actually asked me because I had a Heineken Zero. And he had to look at the bottle. He's like, what you got there? He doesn't know my story because I haven't really posted it anywhere, right? And my personal stuff, I created a new Instagram account. And he had to tell me, oh, what, really? And I'm like, yeah, I decided to stop drinking and I'm loving it. That's it. You know what comes next, right?
Yeah.
Well, I just drank twice a week or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But what I'm trying to say, it's what he does, everybody else does, right? It's for whatever reason, it's like a mirror where people ask their relationship with alcohol. It's not about me thing, it's about them.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, I was like, you know what? And it's every time. It's very few people that don't ask. Then at the end, he said, you know what? I am proud of you because it takes discipline to not do this. And the fact that you still had fun with your partner, it was something that made an impact on him. And I felt good because you know what? That's the way we can change a little bit, this society, little by little, that you don't need this thing in order to have fun. You can still have fun. You are present. I am looking at everyone having fun, all the conversations. Guess what? I will remember the next day.
That's right.
If I met somebody, for God's sake, and I see them another time, you know how many people, I know so many people in Florida, and sometimes people used to stop me. I didn't know who they were.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because we were partying. I was already up there, and I didn't remember.
Yeah.
Now I do. So
Yeah.
that's a story that I like.
And you kind of segued into exactly what I was going to ask you about, which is funny because, with both of you being in real estate, I've seen Jessica, and anytime there's an outing, it's always at a bar. Always, always, always. Or it's at like a reception hall and it's open bar. It's crazy. And I was going to compare it to, it seems like, the rock and roll culture that, we've had musicians on or lawyers, which you brought up. It's just a huge drinking culture. So what I was going to ask you was, especially early on when you made the decision you weren't going to drink anymore, is like, how did you, just for everybody else out there, how did you navigate through those situations all the time, knowing that, going in there with the headspace of, I'm not going to drink, but it is literally all around you. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, my story, that hasn't been so hard. Like once I made my decision, I am not drinking. And that is the reason why I made the decision, right? Never questioned the decision. Why?
right.
Because that mental real estate that it takes for me to be thinking, okay, is this event, do I allow myself to drink in this event, or how many drinks can I drink? all of that, it just stresses me the heck out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's too much work. I already have a lot,
Mm-hmm.
in my plate. I'm a mom, I have my real estate business. I just having to be thinking about how many drinks. And then once I make that decision, guess what? It's not something that it triggers me, but with that said, it has happened. And I give you an example, the holidays that
Mm-hmm.
just passed. My last drink was December 31st of 2023. So about what, 14 months
Mm-hmm.
almost. Uh, and so I was like, okay, one, like that, the end, like Christmas and that threshold, but New Year's, right?
Yes. Yeah.
There was a lot of going on, like little parties, little get together, and everything is drinks. By the third day, it did trigger me a little bit. Like the question is like, well, do you think you can maybe, it's Christmas, drink? When that happened, immediately I'm like, nope, I don't question the decision. This is not happening. It is normal. I have educated myself enough to know how my brain works. And I have my tools that, come up, and they're like, okay, I'm going to use the one that, for example, I have on my phone. I have a note that it says why I started this journey, what are my reasons, and the benefits, which are a shit ton.
Mm-hmm.
I've read all of those, and I calm myself down, and that's it. So that doesn't trigger me. I could be around it, but I have to say I don't go as many as I do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You become a homebody, like
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
enjoy other stuff. You like, I don't know. It's like the world becomes more colorful. I know it sounds cliche, but I swear, just try it out.
Yeah. I found that, and I still get invited to, a lot of stuff, work related things and stuff like that. And I don't want to go anymore. And like you, it's such an easy decision. It's one less thing you have to worry about every day. There's no anxiety over it at all. It's like picking your clothes out the night before. When you get up in the morning, you shower, you already know what you're going to put on. There's no anxiety of shit.
Yeah.
Does this match, or do I need to wear the black one with this? You've already done it. You've taken care of that. So, yeah, I love that you said that. I couldn't agree with you more. That's kind of the way I was. It's just you cut it off. You've made that decision, and that's it.
And that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that too, because I think that becoming a homebody, it's not necessarily that you don't want to, like, it's not the alcohol that you don't want to go out for, right? Like,
Mhm.
if you have a friend who's getting married, or it's a birthday party and everybody's drinking, you're right. Like, we'll go, or you'll go, and it's not a big deal. It's more so that in sobriety, you fall in love with yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you're like, where I spend my energy and my time and the conversations I have, they're intentional. My actions, my words are intentional. So you just become more mindful of everything you're surrounding yourself with. And to take it back to real estate for a second, like, I used to give bottles of champagne or bottles of wine as closing gifts all the time. And I know a lot of agents and title companies who still do it and
Yeah.
whatever. But when you got sober, that was the first thing. Like, I had, all these bottles of wine in our little fridge. And I was like, oh, I'm saving them for closing gifts. I give them that and, maybe a card or something. And when you got sober, I thought, I wonder how many people who struggle with alcohol or in recovery or whatever that I have just handed alcohol to. Not that I'm responsible for anyone's sobriety, but how inconsiderate. Like, this alcohol is not a gift, it is a curse.
Right.
And so, I got rid of those, threw those away, because I thought, I'm never going to give alcohol or any sort of like alcohol paraphernalia or anything as a gift anymore. And that comparison of a potentially like fatal substance that you are celebrating something and giving it as a gift, I just felt like, oh my gosh, that makes me feel
Makes you
so
wonder,
gross.
Yeah.
And now I'm not going to I'm not going to lecture other people about it. Like, I'm not going to go somewhere and be like, you really shouldn't give that as a closing gift, because on you to do. That's
Right.
fine. But I made a decision personally, like, I'm not giving booze as a gift anymore. I'm not bringing a bottle of wine to your party. And if you ask, like, hey, can you stop and get a case of beer? I'm either going to say absolutely not, or it's going to be a non-alcoholic beer. And then when I get there, you're going to be pissed.
That's
Like,
right.
like, I'm just not doing it
Set the
anymore.
precedent.
I will bring the plates. I will make food, whatever you want. But yeah, you become more mindful. And I think you become more of a homebody simply because, like, we have different versions of ourselves. And especially when you're talking about work, there's a level of fakeness there. It's not a bad fakeness. It's just you turn a part of yourself off and another part of yourself on. And alcohol is what previously you thought was like helping make you more palatable to other people. And in sobriety, you no longer care if you're palatable to other people. You care that you're palatable to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, we'll go out sometimes and we have a great time. And we get to that point where everybody starts really like feeling their buzz. And we're like, it has been a lovely evening. We are going home.
Yeah. We value our time. Together and individually. You value your time.
One, you know, it used to be like a butt of a joke when someone would get drunk and do something stupid and ha ha ha, everybody laughs. Yeah. That also doesn't, it's not funny anymore. Right. You know, you're just like, I don't want to, it's kind of like giving alcohol as a gift. I don't want to laugh at, you know, drunken behavior anymore. It's just a me personal thing. It doesn't make anybody else bad. It's just not something I find humorous anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you with giving alcohol. I don't either. Like, that's not for me. I think I will be a hypocrite if I do that. Hey, I love myself, but here you go.
That's right.
But I think going back to the homebody, it has to do a lot that you grow as a person and you actually get to know who you are at your core, with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So for me, anything that I do or say yes to now, because I still have fun. I still go out. I still go travel. I done vacation. I go to bars. You know, I do all of things, right? But anything that I say yes in my life, it has to be valuable for my time, right? And then it has to be a good vehicle or an expression of what I love or what I'm passionate about. So that way, you know, and it has to give me energy instead of deplete me, you know, from it. Because a lot of things when we go out, let's just be honest, sometimes I used to go out with people that maybe I didn't have much in common besides the drinking.
Right.
Now you take that out of the equation and then you're stuck, okay, hey, you know, we really don't have much between you and I. So you don't have to see it as a bad thing that your relationships are changing, because they will, you know. My friends, they're my family, they're still my friends. I still talk to them. They still drink. One of them, you know, it's also trying to go through the sober path because of him, not because now I'm Abigail's the police of alcohol and I'm judging everybody. That will be fucking ridiculous, you know, which, you know, some people do.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's ridiculous because, you know what? I've been drinking for almost 2 decades, right? And whoever came with that show, I'm like, please get out. And saying about that, let's talk about the fact that my dad never drank in his whole life. And my dad had me very late in life. He was 57. He just passed away on December 2nd at 96. But he had a healthy life and he lived that long. And one of the reasons, he was always proud when he would go to the doctors, any doctor, he's like, I have never drank or smoked in my life. It was like a staple for him. And here I am. I did. Why? Because in my friends, you start growing up. It's the normal thing. So I don't judge anyone. I tell my 19-year-old son now, listen, I wish that you don't drink. I hope that you don't do any weed, anything. And I'm going to tell you why. I did it. He knows I'm no drinking. I don't do drugs. But I did it. It could be fun, but there's a very thin line between the fun and you getting out of place, and it could go wrong. I'm like, I told him, you don't have that habit. Just don't take it. You know, you're very determined. You have a future ahead of you. He's a great sales guy. He talks to anybody. It's something amazing. He loves door knocking. Who loves door knocking? I mean, tell me I've done it. I know if you've done real estate,
hate it.
right? It's a
I
thing.
hate it. I actually now refuse to do it.
I've done it for open houses, and even
Right.
that's a softer. You know what?
It's
He loves
scary.
it.
Oh gosh.
He likes the challenge and how to break the objection. He's like a Cardone. I don't know if you know Grant Cardone.
Oh yeah.
You know that he has done a lot of his business because he has decoded objections and all of that.
Right.
Well, he's a mini that, and he has his own business. But I told him, you know what? You're doing really good. If you drink, everything can go south. Why? Because it's a distraction. Now you see my life. He's so proud of me, not because he saw me. Oh my God, my mom is an alcoholic. She needs help. No, but you know what? He realized, wow, you know what? You said that you're not going to drink and you're not drinking. That's also a good example, like for your daughter, the fact that she sees you, look where you're at right now. You have an amazing podcast with your wife. She's the intro, which I think that's just amazing. And you're showing her that. That's priceless.
Thank you.
And it humanizes you to your kids too, right? Because when they're like little, they think that you are these like supreme godlike beings and you know all things and you can do all things. I mean, my goodness, you can get a stain out of a shirt. You must be magical, you know?
Amazing.
And it's important for them to see that the human experience does not end, you know, and it kind of takes it back to the non-judgment, you know. We have seen a lot of people in recovery who try to be missionaries for sobriety. And that really turns people off because the human experience to be alive and wake up in the morning is fucking hard, especially now. And so to assume or have this like air about you that you have figured out the key to life and success and all of the things is just disgusting, you know, because getting sober, it makes a lot of the problems go away, but it doesn't make you like, it doesn't fix your whole world. Like getting, I'll be completely honest. Like when he got sober, and we talk about this on previous podcasts, when it first happened, I'm like, what if we don't like each other? You know, like we met in a bar, like talk about drinking buddies. I used to be a drinking buddy. And I'm thinking, what if you get sober and we're like, this is not it.
A chance we had to take.
Or, you know, I say this with love, but you were a fucking asshole when you were drinking, like just very mean. And I mean, never physically, but like verbally, just very mean. Well, I mean, which, you know, people are like, that is like all
it happens.
Alcoholics. Yeah. Well, because who you are as a person is no longer in the driver's seat.
Yeah. Your inhibitions are out the window.
Exactly. Yep. And so I had moments where I thought, what if he gets sober and he himself really is just a fucking asshole? Like that is who you are as a person, you know? So I think it's important for people to understand that like, alcohol is a poison. Sobriety is great. And it solves a lot of your big problems. But more than it solves the problems, it gets you within a headspace where you're clear and intentional with your actions so that you can problem solve and pick and choose what to address and what not to address, right? Like just anything else. Like you don't go to therapy for a year and be like, I'm fixed. First of all, you're not broken. You have to continue to go to therapy. A lot of times you have to change the type of therapy that you're receiving. You know, it is a lifelong evolution of self. And that is why when people go around being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you drink, or lecture people, you are working under this umbrella that the only problem that anybody ever faces is their struggle with alcohol. And if they just give up alcohol, then everything in their life is going to be great. And I'm here to tell you that it makes a lot of things great, but you know, you have to do all the other work. We've yet to have somebody on this podcast go, well, one day I just quit drinking. I didn't work a program and I didn't do anything else other than not drinking. My life was perfect. You know,
that'd be
that's not
something.
how that works, right? You have to work a program, and it's accountability. And that is the difference that you see with people. There are a lot of people who don't drink and are still fucking assholes. Okay.
Yeah.
Like it's not
very
a
much
cure all. Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people when they ask, this journey is not easy, but it gets better, right? And at the end, alcohol is an underlying problem, right? The problem is within yourself. The problem is the lack of love for yourself, the lack of confidence. One of the biggest things that I have found in this sobriety is to be able to trust my word.
Yeah.
Meaning, if I'm gonna say I'm gonna do this at this time, at that time, no matter what, rains, whatever happens, I'm gonna be there. And you start trusting yourself and you start looking at yourself in a better way. Because sometimes we are so instant gratification driven and looking for somebody else to come and fix our problems. Listen, I'm a Christian woman. I believe in Jesus. Yes, Jesus died for us, but honey, you got to move your ass too. He already did it now. You don't ask for no more. He already did what he had to do. What I imagine, like he's like, I already did it.
Like, you have to show up too. Okay,
you gotta do the rest, honey. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just you can. This life is short. Really, we are here today, gone tomorrow, and whatever time you have, why do you want to have it not remembering, feeling like shit? Hangovers are the worst. The anxiety, Jesus Christ, that's horrible. That thing that where you're gonna feel like you're gonna have a panic attack because you're so dehydrated from the night before, and then you want to eat all that fat. Listen, let's talk about how I was drinking Abby for a second, right? Drinking Abby was fun. Okay, I was not an asshole, I was not that dry drunk or like that person that it will come nasty fight, get to crying. I was the party of the life. I will be making people drink though. So the world is a better place now that I'm not drinking. Why I said that, I did so much influence in people to drink. Even the people that didn't really drink, I made them drink. And now I'm in a path where I'm even thinking of doing my own podcast for women, right? I want to help other people the same way I influence a lot of people get drunk. How about we do this the other way? By their choice, right? Because it's not me trying to be judgmental. That's not my style. But you can your mess is your story.
Yeah.
And that is what it's all about. Try to get other people to get into this, this path, which we're not saying everything is going to be rainbows and butterflies, right? And unicorns. You have to put in the work. But if you put in the work, you know what? It gets hard. I lost my father. Guess what? That's the hardest thing that I have endured in my life till this day. My dad was an amazing dad. He was an amazing father. They were married for over 40 years. He gave me the example of what a respectful man. He went to the career. He has a Purple Heart. It was like, he is the definition of discipline. His faith was unwavering, not by the talk, but that by the walk. Right. And the one thing that I was scared that I was like, man, I can slip back or maybe get back to like drinking. It could be the death of my father. And guess what? It didn't. I had a community, and Ryan, thank you for that because you were part of it too. I had a community where I have never seen this in my life, not in real estate, not even in church. And that's a lot to say. Where there's really not judgment. They really people that you don't know. In Canada, Australia, New Zealand, giving you support. When I was in the hospital, in hospice, you know what? Those moments when you're so overwhelmed, but then you get into a meeting, you share, you let your heart out, right? It's like therapy, for me at least, And the support, I got text messages, I got video texts, I can't name. And you know what? That helped me so much in the darkest point of my life, that a bottle or a bar, what would have done? Maybe I will go leave the hospital, go drink, come the next day feeling like crap, not being present for my father. Then I'm grieving my dad and I'm feeling like shit and my brain it's just you have to deal with the pain, guys. There's no way to run around it. Just deal with it. It will not last. You have the night, then you have the morning. So just push through. Now, this is what I do to cope with things, right? Because one thing that I did too, I use alcohol for coping mechanism. Well, I use alcohol for everything, for parties, for coping, for when I was angry. For anything was an excuse. Vacation. like everything. My kid's birthday party, sometimes they look like they were for an adult.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And once you like, you start, you just start changing all of that. It's just life gets much better. Yes, it's hard. Now I start, you know what I do? I get bad one day. It was the second month of my dad passing. It's 2.5 now. And I got moments where the sadness just comes. And maybe I'm watching a video, a movie, and I see in a scene of a father. It's usually something like that, right? You know what I do? I open my thing. I have a folder with his pictures and his video. I grieve. I let my tears come out because I understand that's healing for me. My life would
Hmm.
never be the same, but at least I'm honoring, hello, I lost my father. It is okay to cry. It is to okay. Then I journal. And the craziest thing I think I did was I ruptured my ACL, which is your ligament in the back of your knee. So I like to run. I was training for a half marathon. Well, that's obviously out of the question now. But one of the things that since I stopped drinking, I quit alcohol as that coping, right? And running became that outlet.
Hmm.
Well, here I was feeling like crap, crying, feeling bad. And I'm like, I need to do something to let this energy out. Guess what? With an ACL like that, I went for a run because that is better than doing the alternative that I used to do before. Obviously, I listened to my body. I ran very slow. I did 1 mile in 17 minutes. That's like a turtle doing it. But guess what? It did help me. So you have to learn how to get tools and get an app, therapy, a friend, whatever works for you that can
Hmm.
make you understand that there's other ways to cope than alcohol, which it doesn't solve anything. The next day you feel worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
I
I was gonna say the support system stuff is absolutely
incredible.
incredible because that's what really got me through, especially my first year.
Hmm.
Um, it having people around, like you said, literally all over the world, um, to check on you
Mm-hmm.
because and I don't know how your dynamic is, but like my family, I nobody really checks on me. My wife does, but nobody else really checks on me. And having people, hey, we haven't seen you in a couple days. Everything okay? I haven't heard from you. I haven't seen you. Whatever. Having that, just for whatever reason, gets you to dive back in. Does it not? Don't you
Mm-hmm.
feel that way as well? Just having that
Yeah.
sense of community or not wanting to let anybody down on top of yourself
The
is
accountability. Yeah.
it's incredible, absolutely incredible, and that's a big thing for me with Reframe
Mm-hmm.
that brought to me more than the neuroscience and all that stuff was the community. The community, I think, is the biggest thing, which is why anybody new that comes up, the first thing I tell them is meetings, 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 because that's how you build your
Hmm.
community.
Mm-hmm.
You find your tribe to help you out at times of need, which obviously you did the same thing and really brought you through a couple of really terrible times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I want to
agree.
say, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear about your dad.
Thank you.
You may know this, I don't know, but my mom passed last year
I'm
in
sorry.
April. And we were very close. It almost brought tears to my eyes hearing you talk about your dad and your grief because it's like you feel like for the rest of your life, everything else that you do is going to be built upon this foundation of grief. Like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like forever, for the rest of my life, I'll always be just a little bit sad.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it lingers there just kind of quietly in the background. And then sometimes, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think this is funny, but not like I was literally like peeing and all of a sudden like didn't even have, I don't even think I was watching my phone. I just like hit me out of nowhere. And I like texted Ryan, like sitting on the toilet, and I was like, I need you to help me come get up. Like I can't, like I'm like full body sobbing. And he's like, what's wrong? I said, I just miss my mom. Like I want
Yeah.
my mom, um and it's going to make me a little emotional, but I don't think I could have gotten through that if he hadn't been sober, to be completely honest. Like his sobriety was a lifesaver. And when you say it is the hardest, most painful thing you'll ever go through, I'm there with you, sister.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that if I told myself, like, if I can get through that, right? Losing my mom, and I can still wake up every day and be grateful for this life, there is literally nothing that I can't do.
That's right.
And so it's this double-edged sword, right? Because it's the worst pain in the world, but you feel like the most powerful person in the world in some ways because you went through something that you feel like every day is going to break you and you don't let it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine, I mean, I could not imagine having gone through that if I was drinking, or like, and I would tell him all the time, like, I believe that, call it God, call it the universe, call it whatever anybody wants, but there was some sort of divine intervention there that got you sober in to sound selfish for a minute, in preparation, because I
Yeah.
mean, to have to navigate something like that on top of struggling with something else, I mean, losing her, just like losing your dad, it is the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire
Yeah.
life. Leaps and bounds, nothing, you know, and I don't even want to think about this, but aside from something happening to my child,
Right.
that is, it was the worst. And her experience was similar in the sense that she was in ICU and we sat with her until she passed, and it was a big to do. And yeah, I'm just so sorry, but I'm so proud of you. My brother, he does identify as an addict, and he was in active addiction for 20 years, drugs and alcohol. And he flew up here. He's been sober now for 5 years, like sober and super successful, like just a completely
awesome.
different person. And we've always been super close. And he flew up here when our mom passed. And I remember us like sitting in my bed, and we're both just full body crying, sobbing. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
and in the midst of all that pain, he looked at me and he says, I do not want to drink and I do not want to use. And I kind of at first was confused. I was like, I didn't say you did. He's like, no, like, this is the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And I still don't want to run away from it. I want to feel it. I want to live it. I want to grieve and cry animalistically, and I want to exist in this moment. I do not want to be high or drunk. And it was so powerful. Like, that moment will stick with me forever. It was that clarity of, I would never dishonor myself or my mother in that way. I want to feel it. It's what grief is, what keeps us close to those we care about. So I know what you've gone through. I saw my brother be strong. I'm just so proud of you, because we have a tendency to say these things are easy and we make these decisions, but it is not easy to choose not to run from the pain. Whether you have whatever going on, the easy thing is to want to turn that off and to be able to sit with that and say, nope, I'm going to grieve. I'm going to cry. I'm going to scream if I have to. I'm going to feel every moment of it. That is so powerful, like more so than I think a lot of people realize. So I appreciate you telling that story. I'm so sorry about your dad. And if you ever need a resource, I'm here. I will sit there and I will cry with you.
We cry
Because me
together.
too. We will cry together. Me too.
We cry sometimes for real estate, sometimes for, no, I'm joking.
That's
But
right.
I'm
That's
sorry
right.
for you too. I mean,
Thank
a
you.
mom, I lost my dad, but my mom now and still here, it has to be tough. But I did like something that you said, and that's amazing about your brother, you know, that's wow, because 5 years is still, you're fairly new. Something like that can take anyone out. And people probably would understand. That's the thing.
Right.
With that one, it's like you're not going to get that much judgmental, because people are like, well, you know, well, maybe I do it too. But something that I like that he said is like, I don't want to run away from pain, because when you said that, it made me realize something too. That's my history with alcohol when you look at the underlying issue. I started drinking more. I didn't have luck with relationships, right? I had different situations that happened to me. And I think I started using alcohol. I didn't know, but now I do. Oh, let's party. But I was just putting a Band-Aid in my heart my heart was broken. And then I was so young that it's like, oh, I like this. And then I used to say, well, I'm a tough cookie. I'm a girl, but I am not emotional, which is the biggest bullshit. We are all emotional,
Right.
women, men, all of it. Maybe we are more, maybe a little bit. But that was the whole point of my consumption for alcohol, to have fun. But in reality, it was running away from the
Yeah.
pain. So, and I do agree, you know what? I want to feel this emotion. It sucks, but it makes me stronger and it heals me. And this 1 year that I haven't been drinking, I have done so much healing and I feel lighter and I have made amazing relationships. And even though I don't have my father's, like you say, divine intervention, just God had me prepare or gave him the gift to see my sober, his last year of life, that his daughter was completely alcohol
Mm-hmm.
free, right? That it's a gift. Um, Another thing that my dad did is that when he was young, he used to go to court to fight for addicts, to take him out of jail, get them in a rehab center. And for the judge, he will go and speak in front of the judge to give him the opportunity that he will take care of them, put him in that thing. He will actually go to jail the day that they got out, sometimes at night. And people used to say, you are crazy. How are you going to get someone that it's a criminal? Because they have done other stuff besides just the.
Right.
He always said, you know what? God is with me and I am helping them. Somebody needs to help. And he did that. And it's just to say, like, look at me now. I never saw that. But
Mm-hmm.
wow, who does that? Go to help the people that are in most need, the people that are unwanted because of mistake that probably alcohol and drugs got them there to begin with. And I think that you guys are doing an amazing work because sober as fuck, it's for that, to give a light of hope, right? For people to realize that this is possible, guys. It is possible to live an alcohol free life.
And you don't have to be ashamed. Like, whatever you've done, even if you're currently drinking or using or whatever, like,
Yeah.
we start our podcast off by telling people to share because the idea behind this podcast was never to like monetize it.
Mm-hmm.
Our Lily asked me last night, she goes, "Do y'all make money on your podcast?" I said, "No, we don't." She was like, "Then why do you do it?" Right? 'Cause she's 14. So in her mind, she's
I
like,
like your daughter.
right. She's like, "Then why do you do it?" And that's just because in her little cozy life, why would you do anything without some sort of payback? Right. Which is exactly how she should be at 14.
Yeah.
And I said, because we want to help people.
Yeah.
Because we want people to know that it's okay to be a flawed human being. It's okay. Like, just because you drink or do drugs or whatever, it does not make you a bad person. And we try hard to stay away from good and bad. That no matter who you are, no matter what decisions you've made, you can always decide to change something. Even if you're in prison for, whatever reason, I'm not saying that you necessarily are gonna, that situation might look different. You might not get out. Like, there are lines you can cross that you can't come back from. But you can always 100% of the time decide, I don't want to be this person anymore. You can. And it floats around like social media all the time, and people have been saying it a lot, but I so agree. Like, people who are self-centered and healthy within themselves will never ever look down on you in judgment or shame or say anything even negative about you. People who look at you and try to shame you or laugh at you or have a holier than thou attitude, it has nothing to do with you. It is because they are insecure within themselves. And that's okay too. Because society teaches us to push other people down in order to build ourselves up. And that's okay. But you don't have to continue to live that way if you do not want to. And that's really why we created this podcast, is we wanted it to be an all-inclusive space for anybody to just exist. We are not medical professionals. We're not telling everybody they should stop drinking. We are simply having people from all over the world tell their stories in hopes that anybody out there can relate to just one episode.
Yeah.
Just one.
I love it.
You know, people like you come on here and you're warriors. I mean, you say that what we are doing is fantastic for the world, but it's really the people we have on our podcast that are changing the world. We just create, you know, the portal in which to deliver the information. You know, your story of your divorce and kids and, you know, literally stripping yourself down and starting over and losing your dad and having a real estate, like, it's easy to look at the end of someone's story, right? It's easy for somebody to look at you or look at us. You know, we get a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, you guys are couples goals. I'm like, no, we're not. I mean, maybe now, but like, I do not recommend marrying an alcoholic and staying married in hopes that someone gets sober. Just like he doesn't recommend drinking yourself to death. But at the same time, as long as there's air in your lungs, there's always hope. You can always change your story. But no, it's not easy. And you have to show up every single day.
Every day. Yeah.
Every day. And I love that. And if you say you're going to do something, then you better make sure before you say it that you have every intention of actually following through with it.
Yeah. Just do it. Just
do it. And it's never, I mean, and it's the anticipation of things, I think, that gets people down more than the thing itself.
Well, Abby, I know you earlier you talked about, you know, you're wanting to start, you know, a podcast for women and stuff like that. You and I had talked about that before. But like, what does the future look like for Abby now going forward? Wow. I mean, I think you did tell me you got your coaching license. Is that right?
I got my my certification.
Certification. Yes.
Nice.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. My health coaching certification. That's a great question. Sometimes when I hear somebody says, I don't know what to do with my life or something like that, right? Which happens. I am in the other spectrum. I always want to do many things, right? So, but I'm always consistent. Real estate is my career. I'm a real estate investor also, which that has its own thing that I've been going through. But the health coaching started because I've always liked nutrition, fitness, you know, just living a healthy lifestyle. And I'm like, you know what? I need the knowledge because I know you don't really need something to start like coaching or health coaching or become some sort of like what we do now, like podcasts or stuff like that. But I like to have a foundation, right? Something that I'm able to give a structure so I can help people, you know, instead just of winging it. Right. So I started with not a complete decision of what to do, but in I think it's the last 2 weeks or so, like I've been thinking of this journey of the alcohol-free situation and how grateful I am for what I did. Like it comes from a place of paying it forward, which I imagine you can relate. There is so much need, and I'm not conclusive of how everything is going to go, but what I want to do is help women to be able to think about their relationship with alcohol without no judgment. I'm not here to say, hey, you have to stop drinking for the rest of your life. We don't like the forever thing. Man, we're not even forever here in this earth, right? But I think if everyone will take time and just give themselves the gift and the opportunity to try it out, give yourself 6 months, I don't know. And I want to create something that I can help like you guys. Like I want to help, not just because I love real estate, but that's not my passion. You know, that's my career. That's very different. Here, this will be my passion, something that I want to help. It's a purpose-driven podcast that I want to do. What it goes from there, I have no clue, but I do tell you something. When I say I'm going to do something, I know it's not easy. I've been trying to do YouTube for like 7 years, but you know what was the difference? I didn't have a purpose for it. Like I've always been trying to throw it at the wall and see what sticks. I have over 75 videos. I know how to do pretty much like a decent edit, right? All self-taught. I put in the time. I did courses, But guess what? When you don't have a niche, you need to know who you're talking to, right?
Mhm.
Like you guys know who it's the people that you're creating this for. The same thing I want to do for women. So that's the big difference. I'm not afraid of hustling. I think I like it. No, I don't think. I know I like it. I'm not afraid of rejection or what people are going to think about me. Listen, you do you, boo. You know, it's okay. You want to curse me out? It's on you. We learned that, right?
That's right.
It's a you thing, like you said, Jessica,
Uh-huh.
not a me thing. So it's amazing, but that's another thing. Look at what it can take you.
I love that. And I see why Ryan loves you so much, because that's me. I always tell people, listen, I am an acquired taste. I am not for everybody. I am very convicted in my morals and my ethics, unwavering. I remember when I got pregnant with Lily and my brother was like, oh my gosh, you're going to change. You're just going to be all about being a mother and all that. And that was definitely part of the story. But I pretty much I am unwavering in the things that I hold true to myself. And I am 100% okay if certain people don't like me. I am the same way. My goal in life is not to have on my tombstone, she was nice. I mean, no. I mean, I think nice is almost like it's very discouraging. I want to be thoughtful and compassionate and giving and strong and to say it nicely, I eat haters up for breakfast, honey. I love it when people come at me. I'm tell me more about what makes you feel that way.
It's funny because I remember I have Teslas, and I had Tesla, my first Tesla was when they were coming out. I waited 2 years. When Elon Musk, they say this is going to be the car, I put my deposit, I waited 2 years. So I was the first ones that had the Tesla here. And me here with my YouTube for everything. Right? I created a video, and I remember this troll just insulted the shit out of me. And I saw it, and I just killed him back with kindness. And I was like, oh my God, I felt sorry for him, because I'm like, well, if you have the time, for God's sake, to sit down and come at me like that, I mean, it's just, you have to have some sort of thick skin.
Yeah. And
probably some of them can get to you or not, but at the end of the day, that's where purpose makes a difference, because you know what? Yeah, this is hard, but I'm looking that way. This is why I do it.
And if you don't like it, then my content's just not for you.
Block me. Take me out.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who press play on our podcast and they're like, oh, another sober podcast. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's totally fine. I love the idea of a female-driven podcast. I am all in on that. I've toyed around with having one for myself too, because what I struggle with is more mental health related stuff.
Okay.
I'm ADHD, OCD, binge eating disorder, things of that nature. And so I've toyed around with that idea as well. So yeah, I am rooting for you. If you need anything, I am completely self-taught too. It all started when I really got sick of paying $30 every time I needed an email sent out or a flyer sent out for real estate. I was like, this fucking sucks. I have spent hundreds of dollars in marketing in 1 month. And so I did a deep dive into, where did they make these things, and found Canvas. And I was like, I'll just pay the $6 a month. And it's funny because I'd be watching TV and I'm just sitting there, it began with these horrible whatevers. And he's like, what have you been doing over there for 4 hours? I'm like, I'm playing on Canva. And he was drinking at the time, so not quite as amused by it. But fast forward to now, I look at him and I'm like, return on your investment, sir. I created the logo and all that. And same. I'm like, there's a time and a place to pay and do that. But for the most part, I like having control over every mechanism that goes into the creation of something. And I like to know how to do things. Like even if one day I'm no longer doing the graphic design part of it and we decide to hire someone, I still want to know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I am like that. Yeah. Jessica, you and I are very alike.
Yeah. Like
I am just like that.
I want to know that it's done right, and I want to know how to do it. I also grew up with very limited means, and so some of that also is, I always tell him, I could be poor again tomorrow, and I would know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
Exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because as women, we're fucking strong, and we're resilient, and we're smart,
we're badass,
and we create life and get up and go to work the next day. We know what the hell we're doing. So I am rooting for you. I think that your idea for a podcast is fantastic, and we will 100% promote it on the Sober as Fuck page.
I appreciate it. Yeah, the alcohol, it's like somewhere between alcohol-free wellness for women. And the reason why is because for me, anything that has to do with wellness should include by default not drinking.
Right.
Back in 2015, I wanted to compete and do like an NPC bodybuilding, like the bikini, not to get like looking like a man, which people that do it, God bless you, but that's a lot. And that's not my thing.
Yeah.
But one of the things that it came to it was alcohol, because when you have that strict diet, right, because you have to eat a certain way by grams and all that stuff, guess what? Alcohol is not your friend. You retain water, besides everything else that does to your body. I'm talking about just physical now, right? That will harm me for my goals, even on my fitness goals or my health goals, because I remember going back to my coach, and after like 2 months that I was not drinking, I'm like, give me whatever. What can I drink at least like on the weekend that it's not as bad? Now that I think about it, if you don't think that's an issue, that you have to go back to somebody and say, hey, and she's like, well, have tequila or vodka with water and lime, right? No sugars, no anything. I mean, that's still hindering. And she still told me, but that's going to take your process longer. Even if you have one or two, because the next day you're going to be swollen, your liver's not going to work the same, which is your filter, which, you know what, also deals with the fat and all that stuff. It's just amazing that we are willing to do all of this. And the other thing that I was thinking about is, listen what it does to your brain. I mean, it shrinks your gray matter, for God's sake. It makes you, in other words, more stupid, point blank and simple English.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we can get all technical here with the PhD and all that, but it just makes you stupid in a way with time. And people think about the liver, which, yes, the liver is actually very resilient out of all of our organs, right? Because if not, a lot of us will be dead by now.
Right. Yeah.
But people don't think about the brain. And that's something that people don't know. I know Dr. Amen, I don't know if you heard of him. He talks a lot about, he's a psychiatrist that does the scanning of the brain. And he shows you the difference between a non-drinker and a drinker. And it's scary. You can see like the holes all over.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about drinkers like full blown, their lives are gone. They drink every day and night. I'm talking about people that drink socially. And just for that, I think it should inspire people to look into it without a judgmental, just to take care of you. Because guess what? Talking again of the homebody, you know why I enjoy my home and I enjoy all the stuff that I do? Because you start seeing glimmers. The things that you thought that were mundane, right? Because your baseline is getting back in point. You know, you are where you're supposed to be, where God created you to be. I talk about God because that's what I believe. But if not, universe, whatever you think, Buddha, whatever, that you're back where you need to be, and no longer you need that hit of dopamine that is like 4 times stronger when you have just a sip, by the way. Just when it touches your lip, you already have that reaction. So just start seeing everything more beautiful. And that's a true statement.
100%.
All right, Abby. Well, we're gonna get you out of here with one more question, and
oh boy,
it's the most important one.
And you said you were a party girl, so we know you have a good story.
You have to give me a good
drunken
story, and if it involves pee, it's even better.
It has to be borderline embarrassing but funny, and we do this because You have to laugh at yourself. If you
Oh
get
my
down on yourself
God.
for every decision you ever made, then you're definitely never get sober.
I'm
So,
thinking.
You gotta laugh at yourself.
Wow, that's a good question.
Well, that's why I asked.
Because life is meant for laughter and enjoyment. At the end of
You
the
know
day,
what?
life
I
is
do
meant for
have it
laughter.
now. I remember. I was in Miami.
Oh no!
So let's start there.
That's always a good start.
I was
Miami.
going to say most stories that start with "I was in Miami" and
Or
Miami
Vegas.
There you go.
I was in Miami, and I was dating someone, and I remember we were drinking at this bar, and drinking, and we were drinking the whole time. It was nighttime. And I was sitting at the bar, sitting down, having my drinks. I swear I thought I was, oh my God, fantastic. Because, you become a little delirious. You always think that you can handle alcohol. No, honey, alcohol handles you. Okay? I got up, guys, and I just busted my ass flat down. Boom. And I was just starting to date this person.
Oh,
Wow. I remember that I felt so ashamed that I didn't know. I'm like, you know what, Abigail, this is it. I think I sober up a little bit after that call. And it's crazy, man.
it's like a scene in a movie.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm fine. Hit the ground.
So I hit it hard. I'm glad I'm alive.
She's like, I'm pretty sure I got a concussion.
Probably,
Oh,
and I don't
man.
remember. But yeah, that's an embarrassing moment, I think.
Did
more
he call
than
you
anything.
back? Was there another follow-up date?
Yeah, he drank too, but he made fun of me for a while for it.
Did he ask if you were okay?
Yeah, they did. I did hit myself hard. So I'm not. It's things, and I'm pretty sure I have more, but.
Well, you'll have to save them for next time.
Save them on for the next
I don't want to. Yeah, let's just leave it
I
at
have
that.
some pretty juicy stories of my own, believe it or not, that I've been holding in there. Maybe we'll do like a season 2 finale. I have one story in particular that's a doozy.
Yeah.
So we'll save that for the end. Oh yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Well, Abby, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. This was
It was great seeing you and talking to you again. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, guys. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah. We'll talk to you soon.
We'll be guests on your podcast.
That's right.
Yes.
Or at least I will. It's for women. You don't get to. You're not invited.
Well, we can put a little bit of a wig.
There you
or
go.
something.
I'll dress
there
up.
you go.
With the red lipstick.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
Thanks, Abby.
See you, Abby. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Bye-bye. If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
and hit that notification bell to get
Boom.
notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby. Word.